All right, so this is an assignment. It's a 2-week assignment. So this is week 1, and we're brainstorming on a surrealist self-portrait. Now, some people love to work in their sketchbook, and that's great. I just found it difficult to take what was in the sketchbook and in the second week convert it into an Illustrator drawing with limited Illustrator chops. It's not like Photoshop where you can, you have the paintbrush and you can cut things out. You have rasters you can work with a lot easier. I found it much more difficult to take the sketches and convert them into Illustrator the way I wanted. So I'm going to share another way. I tend to brainstorm digitally anyway. And we have been doing collage, so it just seemed to make sense to start collaging things into place. And so what I'm going to show you here is a way to bring images in, convert them into vectors, use the eraser tool to cut things out, and then montage them together. And then you can start brainstorming on how to convert it into a self-portrait. This is one that I had been working on, and so you see it's pretty far advanced, and I've got things off to the side that I might want to reference later. I'm bringing some other images in that I'm interested in that'll make it more of a self-portrait, things like the ant. There's a number of different faces that I got on Pinterest just to get started, and then I'm starting to put my own myself in there and using a little bit of typography. We don't want to have any text on here, but let me show you how to get started on this very simply. So you're going to do a file new. Now you can do any number of different formats. I like to use web large, but you can definitely, this is going to be on the web. You're not going to print this out. I wouldn't use letter. I wouldn't use print, but you can definitely use 8.5 by 11 if you want. I'm just going to use web large. It's going to give me a little bit more room to work in, but pick a format, and you can see that it brings up, and I'm not going to go into too much on I shared a link that is in the classroom on Adobe Illustrator for beginners. It's 10 minutes long, covers so much stuff. And there's another one, Understanding the Principles of Design. It's a Canva video. Again, with these two videos, you could be so far ahead. And then we have Pinterest. But so I'm not going to go into too much detail on the different tools and things. I'm using my Command minus to make the canvas smaller, holding down the space bar to move it around. What you want to be sure you have, that was maybe neglected in some of the tutorials you've been seeing, is you want to have your properties window open, and I'm going to show you why. Let's go get some faces, because this is a surrealist assignment. So, I'm looking for two faces that are, looking kind of at me, right? So forward, that's what I'm looking at. So I'm going to take this gentleman's face here, and I'm going to right click on it. I'm going to hit copy, and I'm going to go over back to Illustrator, and I'm going to hit paste. Well, actually, I'm going to have to do it longhand paste. There it is. Hold down your shift key when you resize. Otherwise, you'll get a lot of distortion. And, you're going to resize this up. So there's one guy, right? Let's bring another guy in here, because what I want to show you is just simply how to combine two faces. And then we'll talk about adding lips and eyes and ears and things. Hold on, let me faces, portraits. See where I was there, sorry. Okay, there we are. And I'm just going to pick one. Maybe this is black and white. I do want a color one. Let me see if I can find one here. All right, let's do this one. Copy image. Go over to Illustrator. We're going to right click and hit paste. And there's our second image. Going to hold down my shift key. Going to get them somewhat the same. So what I'm thinking in terms of, if you go back to this one, so we're going to just combine those two faces. We're not going to, I don't want this to be too long. We're already at 5 minutes, but I'm cutting out eyes and noses and lips and ears. I'm going to show you that technique. We're going to combine two faces, but I want you to think about images that relate to yourself, images you might have on your camera, things that you want to collage together. All right. The advantage is, since this is going to be done in Illustrator next week anyway, for me, I might as well collage together a portrait, and then I'll be able to work on it next week and refine it and make it larger and add text and add images and things. And then the following weeks, we continue in Illustrator with a zine. So to me, this just fits right in to what we're doing. Now, you can't erase these right now because they are just have been brought in, and they haven't been turned into vectors. So the first thing you want to do is you want to go to Object, Image Trace, and hit Make. Now, don't worry that it looks like that, because you are going to have your Properties window open. See this window here? You're going to make sure that you have your Properties window open and that you have your Image Trace properties open there while that's selected. All right. Now, I'm going to hit High Fidelity Photo. Okay, the next thing I need to do is go to Object, Image Trace, Expand. All right, now it's vectorized. Now I can cut into it. I've been using the eraser tool. It's just easy. Now, if you want a straight line, hold down your Shift key. Right? So I'm going to cut this in half because I'm basically just going to show you, if you're just getting started in Illustrator and you're like, what am I going to do for this project? And maybe in your sketchbook, you've got this really cool image, but you're like, how am I going to convert that to Illustrator? I'm just showing you some different ways that you can think and you can play and you can combine things. All right, there's one. Let's do the same thing. So what are we going to do? We're going to go over here to Object, Trace, Make. We're going to go to our Image Trace window, which again we have here checked. We're going to, I'm just picking High Fidelity Photo. All right. And the last thing we do is we go to Object, Expand. All right. Now on this one, and again, I'm just using the eraser tool. This is a very powerful program. There are many tools you could be using. I'll be honest, I'm more of a Photoshop person. I tend to think like rasters. I'm more of a painter. I like to cut into things with my lasso. So, and remember, as I'm doing this, I want to undo it. Apple Z, you can always undo. So there's that. One thing to note, your layers window, all of these things are in different layers. All right, here's all the different elements. So keep that in mind. I tend to think of it as sheets of tracing paper on top of one another that you can move around. All right, let's move these guys together. Now, if I want to make them a little bit smaller, I'm going to hold down my Shift key and I'm going to resize it a little bit. All right. So there's the start of my portrait. I can bring in, let me go over here real quick. I can bring in, for example, we can actually go between the two, right? We can copy that. We can hold on. We can paste them. Sorry. We can paste them in. This one's already been converted, but just to show you how you can do different things. All right, sorry. Let's see here. So just to show you, and look, you can, if you want to have this as something that you maybe you want to use the lips, you want to use the eyes, but you don't know, move it off to the side, right? You can copy it. You can hold down your Option key and you can copy it. Let me just show you real quickly, because we're at 10 minutes right now. let me just move one eye over there. Okay. Just to give you an idea of how you, I personally, for me, I find this to be, I like collaging things together. I find this kind of fun. Now, the question is, you might be going, well, how is it a self-portrait, Prentice? Um, and yeah, I mean, this is week one. I'm just trying to get excited about Illustrator, and I don't want to be frustrated. And I want to make something creative, right? So, okay, there's the eye. Okay, so there's an eye. You can see it's like Frankenstein. Okay, so what I will do to make it a self-portrait, there's two things. I'll bring in things that I'm interested in. I've always been interested in ants, so I'll copy that. And I'll bring in images of ants or plants. So, whatever it is that I'm interested in, maybe places I've been, I could look through my photos. But this self-portrait, the way I'm thinking about it next week, when it's complete, for me, yours might be completely different. But for me, I'm thinking of a collage, a panel of things that I can talk about. And it'll be surreal in the sense that maybe it'll be Frankensteinian in some of the ways it's been put together. And maybe it'll be surreal because of some of the images, like maybe this giant ant or whatever. Maybe it's like, I am the ant kind of thing. But the last thing I'll show you is this. So if you want to personalize it, right? Like here's an image that I did back when AI was just starting. This thing's huge. They had this program where you could do these portraits. You would upload a portrait of yourself and it would do all these iterations. But what I will do then is I can start saying, okay, I've made a fun collage using other people's faces. Man, that's a pretty interesting, boy, look at that, it's grim, right? But what I will do then is I will start bringing in images of myself. Like maybe I'll bring these eyes in and put them over here. Maybe I'll bring the hair over and put it over here. Do you see what I mean? I can start bringing in images of myself. I can actually start with this one and I could bring in, here's another one from the same series that those guys did. Again, I forget the name of the program. I don't think it's around anymore. You had to pay for it. It made all of these crazy portraits. All right. So maybe I'll bring in several portraits of myself and I'll take the eyes from this and the chin from this, the glasses from here. Maybe I'll start combining things. Maybe I'll make one, there's a million possibilities for surrealism. Maybe I'll just bring in one face. Maybe it won't be Frankensteinian. Maybe I'll have things growing out of my head. And that reminds me, one last thing I'll leave you with, because this is 13 minutes already. Push this off to the side. I don't want typography on this in a sense of writing. I don't want it like, this is me, but you can use typography creatively. I've designed assignments called Text as a Graphical Element, and it's about taking typography and looking at because typography is a graphical element. People, as soon as they start adding type onto their designs, they start reading it. They start thinking of, oh, I'm writing something. And actually, it's as graphic as this picture of an ant, this L. It's a pointer. It has a certain shape to it. So I might start playing around with typography. The cool thing about Illustrator, since it's vector, you can make things as big as you want. So I can actually start using, possibly, typography as a graphical element. Finally, when I'm done here, here's your artboard tool. You're going to bring your artboard tool as like your crop tool in Photoshop. You're going to bring your artboard tool over. You're going to tell Illustrator what it is you want to export, like that. Also, there's a window, there's a trim view that works really well, that cuts everything out that's around it. And now I can do a file, Um, let me see. I always do an export. Oh yeah, I like Save for Web Legacy, but you export as a PNG and always select use artboards. Otherwise, you might get a bunch of stuff exported out. All right, so it's going to export out exactly what we see here. High quality. You can see what it's exporting there, and you're ready to go. So have fun with this. I hope I've demystified some of it. Open up Illustrator, drop some images in there. Do go through the different commands that I've shown you of image trace and expand. Start erasing things, start moving things around, start montaging them together, start creating your own little Frankensteinian portrait, have some fun with it, play with it, bring things in and collage, and start seeing if you can maybe come up with some ideas on what a self-portrait and a surreal self-portrait, make it mystical and fantastic, might look like.